They say ignorance is bliss, but the moment my fingers closed around that silver bracelet hidden in Maya's yoga bag, I plummeted into a waking nightmare. My heart slammed against my ribs, a sickening wave of nausea rising as I unfolded the note tucked inside for my radiant goddess. On the mat and beyond. The words seared into my brain, each one a slap, a betrayal so raw it felt like my world was burning down around me. I stood frozen, the velvet box trembling in my hand, my breath shallow, my mind screaming one name: Dylan. That smug bastard she couldn't stop praising. Maya had been a stranger lately, her glow too perfect, her laughter too sharp, like a blade disguised as joy. She'd float home from yoga, her face serene, her eyes glinting with secrets I was too blind to see. I thought it was her finding peace, a balance to my endless hours sketching blueprints at the firm. 8 years we'd built this life, a cozy house in the suburbs, mornings tangled in sheets, dreams of a future we'd planned together. I was a fool, lulled by her smiles, her soft touches, while she wove a web of lies right under my nose. That bracelet wasn't just a trinket, it was proof, a grenade lobbed into the heart of everything I held dear. It started with her yoga obsession months back. She'd pace our kitchen, restless, saying she needed something to spark her soul. I cheered her on, glad to see her light up. She joined a ritzy downtown studio, raving about Dylan, her instructor, like he was some god of wellness. He's a genius, she'd say, her voice warm, her cheeks flushed. I'd nod, picturing a wiry fitness nut, never dreaming he'd be the one tearing my life apart. Her classes grew frequent, her wardrobe sleeker, her energy electric. I called it a glow-up, proud of her drive, until that note ripped the veil away, exposing her for what she was, a liar who'd played me for a chump. I found a bracelet by chance, digging through her bag for her spare key. The bag reeked of lavender, its sleek design screaming money, a gift from her last birthday. My fingers brushed the velvet, and guilt flickered, a whisper that I was crossing a line. But something darker, sharper, pushed me to open it. The bracelet gleamed, its delicate chain studded with tiny emeralds, too lavish for a casual whim. The note was worse, its intimacy a gut punch. Radiant goddess. Beyond. My vision blurred, my pulse roaring in my ears. I read it again, then again, each word a nail in the coffin of my trust. Dylan. That son of a bitch. I want to smash it, to scream, but my body locked up, rage and pain warring inside me. I sat on our bed, the house dead quiet, the bracelet cold against my palm. My mind churned, flashing to Maya's recent changes, her late nights, her guarded phone, the way she'd dodge my kisses with a laugh. I chalked it up to stress, to my own long hours, but now it all clicked, a sickening puzzle snapping into place. She wasn't finding herself, she was finding him. The thought of them together, her hands on him, his voice in her ear, twisted my gut until I thought I'd puke. I wasn't just hurt, I was livid, humiliated, a man who'd been blind while his wife made a mockery of our vows. When she walked in, her hair damp, her yoga leggings hugging her like a second skin, I didn't wait. I slammed the bracelet on the kitchen table, the note beside it, my voice a low growl. Explain this, Maya. Her eyes widened, her face paling, but she recovered fast, a fake laugh spilling out. Oh, that old thing, she said, her hands fluttering. Just a class gift. You know how Dylan is, always hyping us up. I stepped closer, my gaze boring into her. A class gift, I said, my voice dripping with scorn. Signed with his initial, calling you a goddess, talking about beyond. You think I'm that stupid? Her smile cracked, her lips trembling, but she doubled down, her voice rising. Why were you snooping in my bag, Mason? You're blowing this out of proportion. It's nothing. Nothing, I roared, my fist hitting the table, the bracelet jumping. You're lying to my face, and you expect me to swallow it. Her eyes darted, panic flashing, but she tried to turn on me, her voice sharp. You're paranoid, she snapped. You're making me the bad guy when you're the one invading my privacy. I laughed, a bitter sound, my blood boiling. Invading your privacy, I said, stepping into her space. While you're out screwing your instructor, you got the nerve to play victim. She flinched, her mask slipping, but she didn't break, not yet. I'm not doing this, she said, grabbing her phone, storming to the bedroom. I let her go, my chest heaving, my hands shaking with rage. Her act was pathetic, transparent, A clumsy lie from a woman who thought I'd roll over. I saw her for what she was now, a manipulator, a cheat, someone who'd traded our life for a fling with a slick-talking nobody. The Maya I'd loved, the one who'd danced barefoot in our living room, was gone, replaced by this stranger who dared to gaslight me. I wasn't done, not by a long shot. She'd underestimated me, thought her tears and deflections would keep me in the dark. I'd find the truth, every ugly piece of it, and when I did, she'd regret ever thinking she could play me for a fool. My fingers curled around the note, crumpling it, my resolve a fire that wouldn't die. This was war, and I was just getting started. The fire from that night didn't fade. It burrowed deep, a smoldering rage that turned my every thought into a hunt for truth. Maya's lies clung to me like smoke, her fake tears and accusations a constant taunt in my mind. I couldn't look at her without seeing betrayal, her once warm eyes now a mask I wanted to rip away. I became a predator in my own home, my senses sharpened to every move she made. She guarded her phone like a vault, her fingers quick to hide the screen when I entered the room. Her yoga classes stretched into late hours, her excuses flimsy, delivered with a smile that mocked me. I'd catch her whispering on the porch, her voice low, cutting off when she sensed me near. Every gesture screamed guilt, and I was done being the fool who ignored it. Sleep was a stranger, my nights spent pacing, haunted by visions of her with him, that smug instructor with his chiseled jaw and fake charm. Her laughter, once my anchor, now sounded like a stranger's, sharp and secretive as she texted in the dark. I noticed new habits, small but damning. She'd lock her phone with a passcode I didn't know, her purse always zipped tight, her gym bag tucked out of reach. I tried talking, hoping for a crack in her armor, but she'd brush me off, her voice sweet but hollow. Just a tough day, she'd say, or Dylan's pushing us hard. His name was a blade, slicing deeper each time, fueling a fury that kept me awake, plotting my next move. I turned to our finances, a place she wouldn't expect me to look. In the dead of night, my laptop's glow lit the office, revealing her secrets in cold numbers. Charges jumped out, each one a betrayal. A wine bar near the studio, time-stamped after classes ended. A boutique hotel downtown, booked twice when she'd claimed late sessions. A jewelry store receipt, not for the bracelet, but for something else, dated during a supposed workshop. My pulse roared, my hands gripping the desk as I printed the evidence, the paper trembling in my grasp. This wasn't carelessness, it was arrogance, her thinking I'd never notice. I wanted to storm into our bedroom, shove the proof in her face, but I held back. I needed more, something she couldn't twist. I couldn't do this alone, not with my head spinning in circles of rage and doubt. Ben met me at a rundown bar, the kind where nobody asked questions. I slid into the booth, my eyes burning from lack of sleep, and dumped it all, the charges, her dodges, the way she tried to flip her guilt onto me. He leaned forward, his face darkening as I showed him the bank records. "That's some shady nonsense," he said, his voice tight with anger. "Maya's playing you, and that Dylan prick's in on it." I nodded, my throat raw. "She thinks I'm blind," I said, slamming my fist on the table. "Not anymore." Ben's eyes blazed, his loyalty a fire matching mine. "No way we let them walk over you," he said. "Let's tear this apart. What do you need?" His reaction was a lifeline, pulling me from the edge of madness. I felt a surge of relief, mixed with a bitter pride that someone saw my pain, share my fight. He didn't just listen, he acted, diving into strategy like a soldier. "We've got your shared accounts," he said, pulling out his phone. "Phone bills, cloud data, location history. She's sloppy. Mason will catch her." He offered to cross-check numbers, dig into deleted files, his tech skills a weapon I hadn't considered. "I know a guy who can trace call logs legally," he added, his tone fierce. "We're nailing these liars to the wall." I gripped my beer, my knuckles white, a grim smile tugging at my lips. "Let's do it," I said, my voice low, resolute. Back home, I moved like a ghost, my every action calculated to avoid her radar. While she slept, I scoured our digital life, my heart pounding with each click. Call logs showed numbers dialed during her yoga hours, too frequent for classmates, too late for friends. Location data was a gut punch, pinning her at a high-rise condo, far from the studio, night after night. I found a deleted text, brief but lethal. "Miss you already." Same spot tomorrow. My blood boiled, my vision narrowing to the screen. I wasn't just digging, I was clawing through her deception, each find a spark to my fury. Guilt flickered, a faint whisper that I was violating her trust, but her lies drowned it out. She forced me into this, and I'd play her game better than she ever did. One night, I pushed too far, my obsession nearly my undoing. Maya was in the shower, her phone left on the counter, a rare slip. I grabbed it, my hands shaking as I tried her old passcode, cursing when it failed. I was guessing new. Ones when her voice called out, sharp and sudden. "Mason, you see my towel." I froze, the phone slipping in my grip, nearly crashing to the floor. My heart slammed against my ribs as I shoved it back, lunging for a towel from the laundry. I tossed it to the bathroom door, my voice strained. "Right here," I said, praying she didn't notice my panic. She stepped out minutes later, her eyes narrowing as she grabbed her phone. "You're jumpy," she said, her tone probing. My face burned, sweat prickling my neck, but I shrugged. "Just tired," I said, turning away. She lingered, her gaze heavy, and I knew I'd barely escaped. The close call was a slap, sharpening my edge. I wasn't just angry, I was possessed, a man driven by need to crush her lies. Ben kept me grounded, his texts a drumbeat of support. "Got those call logs yet?" he'd ask, and I'd send him data, each piece a nail in her coffin. He didn't hold back, his words blunt. "She's spitting in your face, man," he said one night, his voice thick with disgust. "We'll bury her and that sleaze." His fire fed mine, a reminder I wasn't crazy, wasn't alone. I mapped her routines, cross-referencing charges with locations. My desk a war room littered with proof. Another night, I stumbled on a hidden photo in our cloud, Maya and Dylan at a rooftop bar, her head on his shoulder, his arm around her like she was his. My breath caught, my fist itching to smash the screen. I saved it instead, my rage a cold, precise thing now. I wasn't chasing shadows anymore. I was closing in, and when I caught her, there'd be no mercy. I sat in the dark, the house silent, my hand steady despite the storm inside. Maya thought she'd outsmarted me, but her game was over. I'd find every secret, every betrayal, and when I did, I'd make sure she and her lover burned for it. My rage had hardened into a blade, honed by every lie Maya spun, every secret I uncovered. The photo of her with Dylan, his arm claiming her, was a wound I carried, its edges raw but sharpening my focus. I dove deeper into her digital shadow, my nights a blur of code and betrayal. I found emails she thought she'd erased, bookings for a downtown hotel under a name I didn't know, but traced to Dylan's credit card through Ben's tech wizardry. One message stopped my heart, short and brazen. "Room 412, 9 p.m., don't be late." My blood roared, a vision of them tangled in sheets, flashing unbidden. My hands shaking as I saved it to my growing arsenal. Location data was merciless, pinning her at his condo week after week. Her yoga hours a blatant lie. Each find was a brick in a wall of truth, unyielding and brutal. I needed to see it to burn the reality into my eyes. One evening, I drove to his building, a sleek tower that screamed money, far from the studio's grit. I parked in an alley, my truck blending into the dusk, my pulse a steady drum of fury. Her car sat in the lot, its familiar plates a slap to my face. I waited, my breath shallow, my fingers drumming the wheel. Hours passed, the night deepening, until she appeared, Dylan at her side, his hand low on her back, guiding her like she was his prize. She laughed, a sound that once warmed me, now a dagger twisting in my gut. They lingered by her car, his lips brushing her forehead, her smile soft and intimate. I gripped the wheel, my knuckles white, my rage a living thing, but I stayed still, letting the scene sear itself into my memory. This was no fling, it was a theft, and I'd make them pay. Zoe became the crack I needed, her loyalty to Maya wavering under the weight of truth. I'd arranged to meet her at a diner. Playing it casual, my voice calm despite the storm inside. I asked about Maya's classes, probing gently, watching her face. She fidgeted, her coffee untouched, her eyes darting. She admitted seeing Maya and Dylan at a bar, their closeness undeniable, her hand on his knee, his whispers too familiar. "I couldn't keep quiet anymore," she said, her voice breaking, guilt etched in her frown. "I think she's cheating, Mason. I'm so sorry." Her words were a sledgehammer, shattering the last shred of doubt. I thanked her, my jaw tight, my mind racing. Zoe's betrayal of Maya was my victory, a key to the lock I'd been picking for weeks. The evidence was a fortress now, but my anger demanded more, a final blow to crush her lies. I confronted Maya one night, my patience gone, my voice ablaze. She was in the kitchen, scrolling her phone, oblivious to the trap closing around her. Zoe said you weren't with her last Friday, I said, leaning against the counter, my eyes locked on hers. You told me you were. Her fingers froze, her face paling, but she rallied, her laugh forced. Zoe's confused. She said, tossing her hair. I was at yoga, you know that. I stepped closer, my voice low, venomous. Zoe saw you with Dylan, I said. At a bar, cozy as hell. Care to explain that? Her eyes widened, panic flashing, but she swung back, her voice rising, sharp with defiance. You're spying on me now, she shouted. Tears welling, her act perfected. You're obsessed, Mason. You're ruining us with your jealousy. She stormed past me, her shoulder brushing mine, her sobs echoing down the hall. I stood rooted, my fists clenched, her manipulation a sickening display. She wasn't sorry. She was cornered, lashing out to twist the blame. Her tears didn't move me. They disgusted me. A cheap trick from a woman who'd gambled our life and lost. I saw through her now, her every word a desperate grab for control. I didn't chase her, didn't argue. I let her stew, knowing I'd strike when my proof was ironclad. She'd pushed me too far, and I was done playing her game. Maya's next move was a yoga retreat. Her excitement so rehearsed it made my skin crawl. It's this amazing getaway, she said, packing with a grin that didn't reach her eyes. I'll come back a new woman. I nodded, my face a mask, but my gut churned with certainty. This was no retreat. It was another tryst, her boldness a slap I wouldn't forgive. I checked her email later, finding a hotel confirmation. No lodge in sight. The dates matching her trip. My blood boiled, but I kept my cool, plotting with a clarity that scared me. I told her I'd be out of town, a fake work emergency, my voice smooth as I lied. Ben agreed to cover, his eyes fierce with shared anger. We're ending this, he said, and I believed him. I spent the night before with Ben, mapping every detail. He hacked into her booking, confirming the room, even pulling Dylan's name from a linked payment. Get that video, he said, his voice hard. Nail them both. I nodded, my jaw set, my mind a steel trap. I packed my phone, a charger, a small camera, ready for war. The next day, I drove to the hotel, a glass and steel beast in the city's heart. I found a cafe across the street, its window perfect for watching the entrance. I ordered a coffee, untouched, my eyes glued to the doors, my heart pounding with a mix of dread and resolve. Hours dragged, the world blurring, but I stayed, a hunter waiting for his prey. They appeared at dusk, Maya's hair catching the light, Dylan's arm around her like he owned her. She leaned into him, her laugh a knife in my chest, their ease a mockery of my pain. He kissed her, not quick but deliberate, her hands clutching his jacket. My breath stopped, my body rigid, but my hands moved, lifting the camera, recording every second. The lens caught her smile, his smirk, their betrayal in vivid color. My pulse thundered, my vision tunneling to their figures, the sounds of the city fading to nothing. I felt my heart crack, a physical pain, but rage surged stronger, a cold, relentless force. They parted, her car pulling away, and I sat, the video looping in my mind, a guillotine ready to fall. I drove home, my hands steady on the wheel, my fury a quiet storm. The pain was there, raw and gaping, but I crossed the line from victim to avenger. I had the truth, undeniable, a weapon sharper than any lie she could spin. I transferred the footage, backing it up, my desk a shrine to her downfall. I wasn't just angry, I was righteous, a man who'd tear her world apart as she'd done mine. The game was over, and I held the winning hand, ready to play it with a vengeance she'd never see coming. The video was a live grenade, its images seared into my soul. Maya's laughter with Dylan a wound that bled fury. I spent the night in my office, the room a fortress of evidence. The bracelet on my desk, its note unfolded like a confession. Bank statements stacked high, charges marked in red. Emails printed, their intimacy a gut punch. And the footage, looping on my laptop, her betrayal playing in cruel clarity. My hands didn't shake, my breath didn't waver. I was past pain, forged into something harder, a man ready to burn it all down. I arranged each piece with precision, a judge preparing a verdict, knowing this would end her lies forever. Maya came home from her retreat, her face glowing with a fake serenity that made my skin crawl. She kicked off her shoes, her voice bright as she spun her tale. The retreat was life-changing, she said, tossing her bag on the couch. The instructors were so inspiring. I stood by the dining table, my evidence spread like a war map, my expression stone cold. Glad you had fun, I said, my voice low, laced with venom. Tell me more. She prattled on, describing a lodge, a guru, a weekend that never happened, each word a nail in her coffin. I let her talk, her lies piling up, my silence a noose tightening around her. I moved to the table, picking up the bracelet, its emeralds glinting under the chandelier. Let's start here, I said, slamming it down. Her eyes widened, her breath catching, but I didn't stop. I tossed the bank statements next, hotel, charges glaring. Then the emails, her secret plans with Dylan exposed. Her hands gripped the table, her face paling, but I saved the worst for last. I plugged my phone into the TV, the screen flaring to life, and hit play. There they were, her and Dylan, his lips on hers, her smile a knife in my chest. The room echoed with their laughter, a sound that mocked 8 years of my life. I turned to her, my voice ablade. Your retreat looked cozy, Maya. Or was the hotel bed more your style? She staggered, her hand flying to her mouth, a choked sob escaping. Mason, she gasped, her voice breaking. It's not what it looks like. I laughed, a harsh, bitter sound my rage unleashed. Not what it looks like, I roared, stepping closer, towering over her. You're screwing your instructor, lying to my face for months, and you think you could talk your way out. Her tears fell, her body shaking, but she tried to fight back, her voice shrill. It was a mistake, she cried. I didn't mean for her to go this far. I stepped into her space, my eyes burning. A mistake, I said, my voice dropping to a growl. You planned every second, every hotel, every kiss. You made a fool of me, and now you're crying like you're the victim. She crumpled, her sobs loud, desperate, her hands reaching for me. I love you. Mason, she wailed. It was nothing, just a stupid fling. I'll stop, I swear. I slapped her hand away, my disgust a physical weight. Love, I spat, my voice dripping with scorn. You don't know the meaning of it. You're a liar, Maya, and I'm done being your idiot. She sank to the floor, her cries ragged, but I felt nothing, no pity, no regret. Pack your bags, I said, my tone ice cold. You're out of here. Now. Her eyes widened, panic flooding her face. You can't, she screamed, scrambling to her feet. This is our home. We can fix this. I grabbed her purse, shoving it at her chest. You burned our home to the ground, I said. Get out before I drag you out. She froze, her breath hitching, then bolted to the bedroom, her sobs echoing through the house. I heard drawers slamming, clothes rustling, her panic a symphony of her own making. I stood firm, my heart as stone, her tears no longer my burden. I called Ben, my voice steady despite the fire inside. She's leaving, I said. He didn't hesitate. I'm there in 10, he said, his anger matching mine. He arrived as Maya stumbled out, her face streaked, a suitcase dragging behind her. She looked at me, her voice a broken plea. Mason, please don't do this. I turned away, my back to her, and Ben stepped forward, his presence a shield. You heard him, he said, his tone hard. Go. The door slammed, her car peeling out, and the silence hit like a tidal wave. I sank onto the couch, my body heavy, the room suffocatingly still. Ben sat beside me, pouring whiskey, his hand steady. You nailed her, he said, his voice fierce with pride. I nodded, my throat raw, the victory bitter. It's not enough, I said, my eyes on the table, the evidence a monument to her ruin. I wanted her to feel this, to choke on her own lies. The next morning, I met Rebecca Shaw, a lawyer with a reputation for shredding liars. Her office was stark, her gaze piercing as I laid out my case, every piece a bullet. She flipped through the files, her nod sharp. This is a slam dunk, she said. She'll get nothing, and you'll walk away clean. I exhaled, a flicker of control returning, my fight far from over. Dylan was next, and I wasn't playing soft. Ben and I dug deeper, finding whispers of his habits, other women he'd charmed, their stories buried in yoga forums. We crafted a dossier, the video at its core, and sent it anonymously to the studio board, local wellness groups, even a rival gym owner he'd crossed. I wanted his world to crumble, his smug face erased from the scene. I heard later he'd been blacklisted, his classes empty, his name mud. I didn't smile, but I felt it, a cold satisfaction, a debt repaid. Back home, I stood in the wreckage of my life, my hands steady, my resolve iron. Maya was gone, but I wasn't finished. I'd rebuild, stronger, and no one would break me again. The echo of Maya's departure lingered, a hollow victory that left me standing in a house too big for one. The divorce was a battlefield, but Rebecca Shaw was a general, her precision dismantling Maya's last-ditch pleas. Maya's lawyers spun tales of my neglect, claiming her betrayal was my fault, but the evidence was a fortress, unassailable. The video, the emails, the charges, they crushed her lies under their weight. The judge's ruling came swift, granting me the house, our accounts, and a clean slate. I walked out of the courtroom, my signature on the papers of final severance, my chest tight with a mix of relief and something heavier, a grief of the man I'd been. Freedom tasted bitter, but it was mine, hard-won and undeniable. Nights were the hardest, the silence a mirror to my fractured thoughts. I'd sit on the porch, whiskey in hand, staring at the stars, seeing Maya's face in every shadow. I tore through our past, each memory a question I couldn't answer. The mornings we'd laughed over coffee, the nights we'd planned a future, were they all tainted, a script she'd played to keep me blind. I hated her, but I hated myself. More for trusting, for loving a lie. The anger surged, unbidden, a beast I couldn't tame. I'd punch pillows, curse into the dark, my voice raw with betrayal. Ben found me like that once, slumped in the living room, and sat with me, his silence louder than words. "You're not broken," he said, his hand firm on my shoulder. "You're just burned, and you'll rise from it." Healing was a fight, not a gift. I started small, reclaiming the house as my own. I ripped out the floral curtains she'd loved, painting the walls a stark white, a blank canvas for a new life. I sold our old furniture, replacing it with pieces that held no ghosts, a leather chair, a oak table, things that felt solid, real. I joined a boxing gym, channeling my fury into punches, the sting of my knuckles a reminder I was alive. Ben dragged me to poker nights, his laughter pulling me back to the world, his friends becoming mine. I signed up for a photography class, capturing cityscapes at dawn, finding solace in framing moments I could control. Each step was a brick, rebuilding a foundation she couldn't touch. One day, I passed a shelter drawn by a scruffy dog with eyes that saw through me. Scout was a mutt, all wiry fur and boundless heart, his loyalty a balm to my scars. He'd bound through the house, stealing socks, sprawling across my bed, his warmth chasing away the emptiness. I'd toss a ball in the yard, his barks filling the air, and feel a lightness I hadn't known since the fall. Scout wasn't just a pet. He was my partner, a reason to rise each morning, a tether to a life worth living. I caught myself smiling one night, his head on my lap, and realized I wasn't faking it anymore. Gossip about Maya reached me, uninvited but faint. Ben mentioned it over beers, his tone clipped. "She's crashing with a cousin," he said, jobless, ditched by Dylan. "He's done too, blackballed from every studio in town, slinking off to nowhere." I listened, my face blank, feeling nothing, no gloating, no pity. Their ruin was a footnote, a distant storm that no longer touched me. I'd fought for my justice, and their collapse was their own, a consequence I didn't need to witness to know it was real. I sipped my drink, the bar's hum grounding me, my life no longer tangled in theirs. One evening, I drove to a coastal bluff, Scout panting in the back seat, the ocean stretching endless below. I set up my camera, capturing the sunset's fire, its colors bleeding into the waves. The wind was sharp, carrying salt and freedom, and I stood still, breathing it in. I'd faced the worst, a betrayal that could have broken me, and come out stronger, not whole but fierce, a man who'd learned his worth the hard way. I didn't forgive Maya, not fully, but I let go, releasing her hold on my future. The scars were there, but they were mine, Proof of a fight I'd won. My phone buzzed as I packed my gear, Ben's voice crackling through. Got a wild idea, he said, laughter in his tone. Road trip this weekend, just us and the open road. I grinned, Scout's tail thumping against the seat, the horizon glowing with promise. I'm in, I said, my voice steady alive. I climbed into the truck, the engine rumbling, and drove into the dusk, the weight of the past falling behind. I wasn't running from it. I was running towards something new, a life I'd built from ashes, rooted in a strength I'd never lose. The road stretched ahead, and for the first time, I felt ready, not just to survive, but to thrive.